enterprises, and when we say entrepreneur, in the definition is that we're talking about a market-based model, right? We need them to go out there and we need them to not be predominantly sort of grant supported. But I think a lot of what we have touched upon here, which is capacity building of whatever kind that is, or helping the facilitation of setting up of a network, or being able to have your eyes squarely on gaps in the ecosystem and how do we actually, because some of these gaps, in fact, most of them, which is why they continue to be such big challenges and gaps, is because it's not something that any one organization, or for that matter, even a single government can address, right? Even the government needs to do it in partnership with so many different players in there. So I think the role for some intermediaries, it's very specific, right? It could be very specific. Like, for example, with Dhriti, broadly you look at capacity development, but that's still a very broad umbrella, right? What does capacity development mean? It would mean doing the kind of research that puts the data out there so people understand. It could be, actually running incubation and acceleration services. It could be around helping women entrepreneurs fundraise. Now, by funds, again, I use that broadly. So whether it's sort of market-facing funds in terms of debt, equity, everything in between there, or grants as well, right? How do you sort of mix that? So that entire gamut of fundraising. So there is a lot of support that's needed to sort of build that base, right? People talk about pipeline, but it's actually not a pipeline that goes like this, right? We've seen, and this is true of any entrepreneurship pipeline. It starts wide, and then we have fall off, and then finally these few who meet society's definition of success and scale. But whatever, right? Even if we don't use that, there are some that will, grow large. There's some that will survive. So, based on what parameters you set for success. And a lot of this, I believe, needs to be done by organizations that focus, that is in their DNA. And that's the role, right, for intermediary organization. Now, you specifically asked about Andy and Aspen, right? So Aspen's philosophy is really around how can we collaborate and use the very diverse ideas to address some of these biggest challenges in general, right? Not specific to entrepreneurship. And that's the Aspen Institute's mandate, right? And then within that, we have the Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs that specifically looks at the entrepreneurship ecosystem and says, how can we apply that same philosophy? And you will see that things like bringing people together, convening, helping form networks, these kinds of things, they don't lend itself necessarily very well to being entirely for-profit models as well, right? In terms of it needing to be subsidized by grant funds. And I think that is important, just like civil society organizations and the traditional NGO sector need to be there, because the work that they do, honestly, nobody else is going to be able to do it, not even the government. Right? So I think there is a place for each of these actors, and that is true of intermediary organizations as well. So I hope I've definitely answered, the Aspen and the Andy question, but similarly with Dhriti as well, right? You have a very clear mandate about the role that you want to play in supporting enterprise, and there are many others who have similar roles. And there's obviously a need for it, and in a country like India, given the scale of the problem, I really wonder if we will ever reach a stage where we can say there is enough of ecosystem support. I mean, we will when we would have as an economy grown, but that's going to be quite some ways out in the future.